LeBron James just exposed VictorWembanyama after his finals meltdown. His words shocked everyone.
Unfortunately, they sent a boy to do a man's job.
James sent the basketball world into a frenzy after comments many fans interpreted as a direct shot at VictorWembanyama following the Spurs' disappointing NBA Finals loss. Whether you agree with the criticism or not, the debate quickly shifted from celebrating New York's championship to questioning whether Wembanyama was truly ready for the biggest stage. Soon after, several former players and analysts weighed in, creating even more discussion about what the finals performance could mean for his future. Throughout the season, Wembanyama had been praised as the league's next transformational superstar. Every dominant regular season performance fueled comparisons to some of the greatest players in NBA history. But the NBA Finals presented an entirely different challenge. Against an experienced Knicks team, every possession carried enormous pressure, and every mistake was magnified. Game 1 immediately raised concerns. Wembanyama struggled to find his rhythm offensively, missing several shots he normally converts with ease. New York's defense consistently forced him away from the paint, contesting nearly every touch and making him uncomfortable throughout the night. Instead of controlling the game inside, he settled for difficult perimeter attempts, allowing the Knicks to dictate the pace. The struggles continued throughout the series. While Wembanyama still contributed with rebounds, blocks, and flashes of brilliant defense, his offensive efficiency dropped during the biggest moments. Several fourth-quarter possessions ended with missed jumpers, turnovers, or rushed decisions that allowed New York to seize momentum. Critics argued that superstars are judged by how they perform late in games, not by what they accomplish in the first 3 quarters. Game 4 became the defining moment of the series. San Antonio appeared to have complete control after building a massive lead, but everything unraveled during the second half. Missed free throws, costly turnovers, and poor late-game execution allowed the Knicks to mount one of the greatest comebacks in finals history. As the lead disappeared, cameras repeatedly focused on Wembanyama, whose frustration became increasingly visible. By the time Game 5 arrived, the pressure had only intensified. Every possession felt like a test of composure. Although Wembanyama continued protecting the rim and making defensive plays, his offensive struggles remained. New York capitalized on every mistake, while JalenBrunson delivered one clutch basket after another to close out the championship. The conversation after the finals quickly expanded beyond Wembanyama alone. Many observers pointed out that San Antonio's young supporting cast also experienced growing pains. Rookie Dylan Harper delivered several impressive stretches, showing confidence despite the enormous stage. Stephon Castle accepted difficult defensive assignments throughout the postseason, often guarding elite scorers while sacrificing his own offensive opportunities. Their efforts demonstrated that the Spurs' future remains promising despite the disappointing ending. Some analysts also credited the Knicks for executing an outstanding defensive game plan. Rather than challenging Wembanyama at the rim every possession, New York frequently forced him to defend in space while attacking him through constant pick-and-roll actions. Physical defenders bumped him early in possessions, denied easy catches, and made every offensive touch difficult. The strategy required discipline, and the Knicks executed it consistently throughout the series. Former players joined the discussion as well. Some believe the finals simply exposed areas where Wembanyama still needs experience, while others argued that one difficult series should not overshadow everything he has already accomplished at such a young age. The debate became less about talent and more about expectations. When a player is labeled the future face of the league, every missed shot and every late-game mistake receives extraordinary attention. That may ultimately be the biggest lesson from these finals. Expectations for Wembanyama have reached historic levels. Fair or not, he is already being evaluated against established champions rather than other young stars. When legends speak, their words carry enormous weight, and fans immediately begin comparing careers instead of individual performances. Despite the disappointment, there are reasons for optimism in San Antonio. Wembanyama remains one of basketball's most unique talents, and nearly every all-time great has endured painful playoff defeats before eventually reaching the top. Experience often becomes the greatest teacher, especially for young superstars learning how to handle championship pressure. Whether these finals become a permanent stain on Wembanyama's legacy or simply the first chapter of a remarkable career will depend entirely on how he responds next season. Great players are remembered not only for the championships they win, but also for the setbacks they overcome. The spotlight on Wembanyama will only grow stronger, and the basketball world will be watching closely to see if he turns this disappointment into motivation for the next stage of his career.
There's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions, but when you prove them wrong, you don't have to say shit to them.
The crowd erupted the moment Brunson delivered that statement because everyone knew exactly who he was referring to. Throughout the finals, many people framed the series as Brunson simply surviving Victor Wembanyama's dominance, but the games told a different story. Brunson entered the matchup after hearing constant criticism that he wasn't a true superstar despite leading New York through an incredible playoff run. In Game 3, Wembanyama shoved Brunson to the floor, received no foul call, and even appeared to smile afterward. Brunson never reacted. He got up, stayed focused, and let his performance speak for itself. Afterward, Brunson explained that the moment he saw Wembanyama celebrating during the game, he believed the Spurs had already lost because true champions don't celebrate before the job is finished. That prediction proved accurate. San Antonio squandered a 29-point lead in Game 4, while Brunson poured in 36 points and calmly led the Knicks to one of the greatest comebacks in NBA Finals history.
Anything before, this is the biggest lesson of my life, the biggest learning moment.
One of the loudest reactions reportedly came from Draymond Green, who argued that the rest of the NBA would study this finals series closely and use it as a blueprint against Victor Wembanyama next season. According to the narrative, Green also suggested that Kevin Durant had been even more critical behind the scenes. Durant, a two-time Finals MVP who knows the pressure of competing for championships, was portrayed as believing that the NBA Finals expose weaknesses that regular season success can hide. The message was simple. Regular season dominance means very little if you cannot perform when every possession matters most. Whether those opinions are fair or not, the larger point is clear. Opposing teams now have fresh film showing how New York defended Wembanyama with physical play, constant pressure, and disciplined rotations. Coaches across the league will undoubtedly study those possessions as they prepare for future matchups. The criticism didn't stop with current players. Former stars and television analysts also weighed in after the Spurs' defeat. Charles Barkley argued that talent alone is never enough to win championships, pointing to the Knicks' physical defense and disciplined execution. He even highlighted how Karl-Anthony Towns, a player Barkley has criticized in the past, delivered one of his strongest defensive performances of the postseason. Together, those reactions fueled even more debate about whether Wembanyama's difficult finals were simply growing pains or a warning sign of challenges he'll continue to face.
Wemby's in shock right now. It's probably been a long time since he got his ass kicked like this.
The biggest criticism after the finals was the claim that Wembanyama simply needs more help around him. Some analysts disagreed, arguing that the bigger issue was his approach. Charles Barkley suggested Wembanyama must become more consistently aggressive if he wants to dominate championship basketball. Shaquille O'Neal echoed that sentiment, saying a player with Wembanyama's size should spend far more time attacking the paint instead of settling on the perimeter. Advanced tracking numbers reportedly showed very few traditional low-post possessions throughout the series, reinforcing Shaq's point. He also emphasized that adding strength and embracing a more physical style could become crucial steps in Wembanyama's long-term development.
About Wemby, as good as he is, he's going to need to get stronger. Because when you become a dominant big man, people go to force. I don't want you to be like me. I want you to have a certain mentality. The same mentality that I saw him have, the same mentality that I saw Patrick Ewing have, that Draymond has. He came out with a lot of energy and a lot of effort.
Shaquille O. Neal recently reflected on Wembanyama's finals experience by comparing it to his own early career. Shaq recalled being swept in his first NBA Finals at age 22 and said the loss motivated him to improve every aspect of his game. His message was simple. The real test isn't losing, it's how a player responds afterward. Draymond Green offered a different perspective, focusing on the mental side of competition. He argued that Wembanyama walking off the floor immediately after the finals loss, without acknowledging the opposing team, reflected the emotional weight of the defeat. According to Green, championship players confront difficult moments head-on and use painful losses as motivation rather than allowing them to define their future.
Look your killer in the face. Look your killer in the face. You gotta look them in their face. By the way, if you leave the court and you don't look me in my face and I just beat you, I actually know that I own you forever. Because you couldn't even look me in the face.
Draymond Green argued that Wembanyama's emotional exit after the finals showed how deeply the loss affected him, suggesting opponents would try to use that against him in future matchups. The following day, Stephen A. Smith shifted the conversation, discussing the league's significant investment in promoting one of its brightest young stars. He questioned whether Wembanyama received more benefit of the doubt than other players would have in similar situations, pointing to controversial officiating decisions during the postseason. Smith also referenced Wembanyama's earlier playoff ejection following a flagrant foul against Naz Reid, arguing that consistency and discipline should apply equally to every player. Regardless of star status,
Wembanyama, it meets all the criteria and has been upgraded to a flagrant foul penalty 2.
the criticism intensified after the finals as analysts focused on Wembanyama's physical play and overall performance under pressure. Some commentators questioned whether officials were consistent in how they officiated contact involving the young star, particularly after the league acknowledged that a missed foul occurred during one of his interactions with JalenBrunson. That admission fueled debate about whether certain calls should have been handled differently. Others focused less on officiating and more on basketball strategy. Gilbert Arenas argued that Wembanyama would become even more dominant if he relied more on his size near the basket instead of spending extended stretches operating on the perimeter. He suggested opposing defenses had success by using stronger, lower-bodied defenders to push Wembanyama away from his preferred spots, making it more difficult for him to establish position in the paint. Statistically, the series showed that New York's defensive game plan disrupted San Antonio's offense. Wembanyama often faced multiple defenders, forcing difficult decisions and limiting his efficiency during key moments. While he still contributed defensively with rebounds and shot blocking, his offensive struggles became a major storyline. As a result, many believe the finals provided valuable film for opposing teams. Future opponents will undoubtedly study New York's defensive approach, while Wembanyama and the Spurs will spend the offseason working on adjustments to ensure they are better prepared for similar playoff challenges.